Hello, everyone, and welcome to today's webinar on Are You Emotionally Smart? Optimize your EQ for better relationships and a more fulfilling life. I'm Wendy Spurgeon, creator of the Way of Truth Sacred Journey Portal and your facilitator for this evening's full moon webinar. And I'm very excited to be speaking with you today. And supporting us with slides is Shelley Chase, writer and life happiness coach. So today you are going to learn several key points about the concept of emotional intelligence that you can implement right away. Today's webinar is broken down into the following topics. What is emotional intelligence? How the brain functions with regards to our emotions. The need to be in the present moment with what we are feeling. The 5 domains of emotional intelligence. Several key personal and social emotional intelligence tactics you can use to create more personal success. But before we jump in, we're just going to take a minute or two and do some quick housekeeping so that we can ensure we have a successful webinar. Please be respectful of others and keep background noise to a minimum. It's best to be in a place where there is no noise and you can focus on the discussion at hand. For the time being, I'm going to keep everyone on mute. Unless you have a question, you can raise your hand and I'll call on you. There'll also be some periods where I take us off mute so we can have a group discussion. And it looks like we've introduced ourselves. But you know, when you speak, go ahead and say your name before you speak, just so we always like to know who we're hearing from and get used to each other's voices. And be participative. These calls are just much more valuable and fun when everyone gets involved. So let's get to it. I'd like you to pull out the worksheet, Mad, Sad, Glad, that was sent to you prior to the webinar this evening. And I'd like you to take 1 minute to identify personal situations where you experienced strong emotions, a time when you can remember feeling mad, sad, and glad. So I'm going to go ahead and start the timer. So let's take a minute to work on this. All right, and let's come to a stopping point and come back. And now let's take another minute and reflect on how each of these strong emotions affected you, which may be in either a positive or negative way. So that's the second question, number 2 on your worksheet. Reflect on how feeling each of these strong emotions affected you either positively or negatively. Let's take a minute. And let's wrap that up and come back. So let's see here. Okay. Are there any volunteers who are willing to share what came up for you in that exercise? What are some common themes? Oh, well, let's hear what you have to share, and then we'll see if we have common themes among us. Getting a little ahead of myself. So who would like to share first? Just raise your hand. Or say me in the chat, and I'll unmute you. Okay, Holly, you're unmuted.
Oh, yeah. Hi there. This is Holly from Bainbridge Island, beautiful Bainbridge Island. So I didn't write for mad. I get really mad when I feel I'm being bullied or scapegoated, or if people are lying to me. And sad, I was more specific, like mad was just sort of generally, but I really just stayed with losing my business, losing my parents, and, losing my children to addiction is sad. And I put GLAD, the store that I lost, dance, and anytime I'm doing art, and specifically art around my house. And then do you want part 2?
Oh, yeah. So how did these emotions affect you, either positively or negatively?
So I'm in a really good mood today.
Good.
So it's, it's all positive because if I get mad enough, it points me and it can motivate me to use my words, to maybe go and have some sort of a discussion with somebody. So it can end up being positive even if the situation started out negative. And it's reinforced. The other thing, like when I think about bullying, I really had to make a decision about whether I'm going to go along with that or not. And so it's ended up being a positive thing for myself. And I wrote, when I'm sad, I feel helpless. And maybe that honestly, words won't help the situation. But again, it still points to the things that need to be changed. Like if I pay attention to it, it's just like pain. The reason we feel pain is because we need to know when something is wrong.
Yeah.
If we didn't have pain, that's just a side note. That's one of the things with leprosy, is that they don't feel things, so they can't take care of themselves. And of course, GLAD is all positive. GLAD is.
So each of these, even though they're in different places on like the scale of emotions, they each bring a gift.
Yes.
When you can open to that gift.
Yep. Points the way.
Yeah. What, Juanita, would you like to share what came up for you? Go ahead and unmute yourself if you'd like to share. There you go.
Okay, I did not get the worksheets. I tried to go on and print those off before this started, and I didn't get, so I apologize. But I do see that there are some strengths in each area. When I'm mad, I become stronger.
Right.
And I can use that strength to get things done. The hardest one I have, I guess, is sadness, because then I become lethargic and apathetic. I just don't care anymore. So I think I get the gist of what your worksheets were what I was supposed to do.
Yeah, no, you're getting the gist of it. And, I think you can do this without having the worksheets right in front of you, because I'm kind of explaining the exercises as we go through them. So if you just take notes,
Right.
you'll be able to follow just fine.
Okay, I got it.
Great. So I'm going to mute
Thank you.
Juanita. Thank you for that. Thank you for that share. I'll say, mad. I thought about stuff from my childhood, particularly. Like, I get mad when I was being harassed by my stepbrothers, because I just did. It made me mad when they would pick on me. I got sad when my horse died, and I was glad when I graduated college. And I can see that being mad pushed me to have stronger boundaries, use my words, and raise my awareness, and create protection and security. And sad helped me to develop empathy for others, so that I could just be with them and not try to fix what they were feeling, but just be with them, be understanding, be compassionate. And glad really has fueled me to keep going in the area of career and relationships and those sorts of things. So I'm seeing and hearing a lot of common themes around emotions and how they affect our lives. So let's go ahead and go to the next slide, Shelley. So what would it be like? What we can see how emotions play an important part in our day-to-day living. Yet isn't it strange that despite the enormous impact emotions can have on our lives, we don't live our lives in an emotionally intelligent way? But imagine if we did. We would handle life's ups and downs with more ease. We would manage our emotions without having to suppress them. We would cope with change and more readily accept when we are stretched outside of our comfort zone. Imagine what it would be like. This is where the concept of emotional intelligence comes into play, and this is the potential it can have in our lives. So in the next hour, we will seek to understand the true nature of what it means to be emotionally intelligent. And we'll start by defining this concept. So now please pull out the worksheet number 2. What is emotional intelligence? And so I'm just going to kind of put this up to the screen so you can sort of see it, Juanita. You see there's sections that they sort of split the page into our view of emotions 50 years ago on one side and today. And then I'll show you the rest of it when we get there. But what I'd like you all to do is just to take some notes on the short presentation I'm about to give. And when I'm done with this little mini lecture, I'll ask you to share what stood out for you. So yeah, just take some notes about what I'm sharing that stands out for you. What is emotional intelligence? Now, typically, when we think of the word intelligence, we equate it to someone's mental abilities, how they use logic or reason. In other words, we don't typically think about emotions in an intelligent way. That's where the concept of emotional intelligence comes in. See, during the industrial age, we have predominantly focused on the rational thought and downplayed our emotions. But now our view of emotions is changing. Researchers today are beginning to view emotions and their significance as an important part of our overall well-being and fulfillment. So 50 years ago, half century ago, we tended to view emotions as weak, chaotic, haphazard, superfluous, incompatible with reason, disorganized, largely visceral, and resulting from the lack of effective adjustment. So that was our view of emotions 50 years ago. Now, more recently, today, those perspectives have changed. Now we realize that emotions arouse, sustain, and affect our activity. That emotions are not in opposition to intelligence. We realize that emotions are themselves a higher order of intelligence. So with this new perspective, emotions play a much greater role in our ability to function successfully in life. Therefore, in order to be successful in life and in dealing with others, we need to be able to do three things with our emotions. One, handle frustrations, our own as well as others. Two, manage our emotions and be understanding of others' emotions. And three, manage our social skills so that we can more effectively live and work with others. So with this in mind, how should we define the concept of emotional intelligence? Emotional intelligence can be viewed as the ability to understand our own emotional state and the emotional states of those around us. It's the ability to use our feelings to guide our thoughts and actions in appropriate ways. It's the ability to monitor our own as well as others' feelings and emotions. Emotional intelligence, then, is all about self-awareness and managing feelings so that they are expressed appropriately. It's not about suppressing emotions, but just being more aware of them. It is being aware of others' feelings and demonstrating empathy toward them. Emotional intelligence helps us to avoid unhealthy relationships. It allows us not to waste valuable energy on negative interactions with others. If we are more emotionally intelligent, we can also handle stress and disappointment more effectively. So, in summary, emotional intelligence is the ability to understand the emotions of ourselves and others. It enables us to effectively deal with people and problems in ways that reduce anger and hostility, develop collaborative effort, enhance life balance, and produce creative energy. So I'd like to just give you a minute or two just to consolidate your notes, and then I'll ask for some sharing. All right, and let's start to come back. And any volunteers who would like to share what popped out for them around that presentation? Go ahead and just take yourself off mute.
Okay, this is Holly.
Hey, Holly.
So I wrote a little of what you wrote, but I also, I was thinking about, 50 years ago that women weren't allowed to show anger. They weren't allowed to be angry
Mm-hmm.
and weren't allowed to be, show sorrow. It's like they weren't allowed to show emotion unless it was masculine in nature. Like it was okay for them to be angry, but it wasn't okay for them to be sad. It's like really crazy.
Yeah,
And children shouldn't be hurt at all.
right.
It was really like when you were going through the list of it being weak, chaotic, and the word I put in there also was you would be considered hysterical.
Oh,
Any feelings that you had would have been based in, craziness. And so they should be ignored. And we, I think about it that the intellect was considered a better thing than,
right.
being emotional. And it's really kind of interesting too with a lot of the careers and how money has been doled out to people, what careers are higher paying, and it can really show up that way. And today, it's more acceptable for women to have other emotions, like anger. I don't think we're labeled as being, quote, bitches or whatever, if we're as it was back then. And men are allowed to be, each of us is allowed to show a bigger range of emotions. So, and then one of the things that I wrote too is the thing that's so great about emotions is that they let us relate to one another, and we can feel and sense more of a connection to other people through them. I mean, because I was really thinking, well, what would it look like if we had no emotion whatsoever? I mean, I don't even know what you'd be doing in life. I'm so emotional.
Thank you.
So, yeah, and just that they really are warning lights.
Mm-hmm.
They just are, guideposts to everything. They're just more information to gather about what's going on around us.
Thank you, Holly. I just so agree. And I think, whenever there's a scarcity mindset in the culture, more of the patriarchs tend to rise in times of scarcity mindset. And that's when all of the logic and, it's all about logic. There's no time for feelings, right? They just get in the way. I mean, that's that level of fear. And slowly, as our prosperity and abundance mindset has been growing because of where we live and, the energy that's gone into, producing abundance, the more of the feminine energy, which is associated with, high emotions. I mean, I was looking at that, 50 years ago, the chaotic, the haphazard. It's what's hard to control, right? Big emotion feels scary. And so it's like everyone was being trained to push down and repress and repress and repress. So, we feel like maybe, it's just me. I'm the only person who has, whose feelings get away from them. But really it's the cultural shadow. It's that cultural repression that we're all trying to heal from. So yeah, things are definitely changing and coming more into balance. But yeah, and thank goodness, right? Thank goodness that we are becoming more self-accepting of all of who we are, including all of our emotions. Juanita or Shelley, did you have anything that you wanted to share? Any insights that popped up for you? Just go ahead and unmute yourself if you'd like. All right, we can go ahead and move forward then. So what is emotional intelligence? Emotional intelligence is the capacity for recognizing our own feelings and those of others, for motivating ourselves, and for managing emotions in ourselves and in our relationships. In order to become emotionally intelligent, it's important to understand how the brain works, so we can see the role that emotions play in our thinking and actions. So at this point, please pull out the worksheet, The Way the Brain Works. So I'm just going to put it up there so you can see it's a diagram of a brain. So I'm going to give a short presentation on the way the brain works, and on the worksheet, go ahead and fill in the blanks with the appropriate terms as you hear them presented. In doing so, you will correctly label how the brain functions. So here we go. The way the brain functions. Our brains are constructed with emotional and intellectual components located in two separate places. The emotional mind is located in the amygdala. The rational mind is located in the cerebral cortex. When we receive normal stimuli through our senses, it passes through the portion of the brain called the thalamus. The thalamus's many functions include relaying sensation, spatial sense, and motor signals to the cerebral cortex. It also regulates consciousness, sleep, and alertness. In other words, our experiences pass through the rational part of the mind first before generating an emotional response. This delay helps us to keep our emotions in check most of the time. But in highly emotional moments, the amygdala plays a crucial role in how a person reacts. While the amygdala and the cerebral cortex usually work in tandem, when emotions run high or get really charged up, our emotions can overtake our rational thinking. If a threat is perceived, the amygdala will hijack or bypass the reasoned response process. It will then flood the brain with electrochemicals that generate a fight or flight type response. Such a response can save our lives in certain situations or get us into trouble by having us overact in other situations. So in other words, our hot buttons get pushed, leading to a strong emotional reaction, such as defensiveness, rage, physical outbursts, ill feelings, etc. And our highly charged reactions are often felt by those around us. This is why the brain's system is what the scientists refer to as an open loop system. This means that our physical systems interact with and affect one another. So my emotional state impacts yours and vice versa. So does anyone have any questions or insights around the brain's functioning? Just go ahead and take yourself off mute.
Is the amygdala, is that the lizard brain?
I believe it is. I believe that's also what is referred to as the lizard brain that was kind of formed first, right? And the other parts of the brain were formed later in our development. And it's that fight or flight kind of basic reaction.
That amygdala is also the part that causes the brain to release the stress hormones in our body that causes most of the illness that we experience. So that's why emotional intelligence is so utterly important, because if we're just not able to manage our emotions, then we're running with all those stress hormones constantly, and it can make us sick.
Oh, yeah. Very cool. Thank you, ladies. Yet, whether we like it or not, our thinking and emotional reactions impact our relationships. Emotionally intelligent people understand the need to monitor the open loop system. They are aware of their thoughts, feelings, and actions, as well as those of others. To strengthen our emotional intelligence, we must live more in the present moment and recognize how emotions are always at play. So now let's put down your pen and pencil and just sit back in your chair and relax for a moment. I'd like you to concentrate on your breath for a moment, following it into and out of your body. Can you feel the air as it flows in and out of your body? Can you feel your chest and stomach expand and contract as you breathe? Keep your thoughts focused on your breath and feel the air as it comes in and out of your body. Still fully aware of what your body is doing. Chest and stomach expanding as the air flows in. Chest and stomach contracting when the air goes out. The challenge is to maintain this present moment awareness in circumstances when your emotions become all-consuming. What are you thinking about right now, if not your breathing? What is trying to push its way into the forefront of your mind? What feelings are associated with your current thoughts? What emotions are you experiencing right now? If you can't name them, try and describe the sensation in how are they making you feel. Let those feeling words come into your awareness. And just take a minute or two to reflect on your feelings and to identify the emotions you are experiencing. Great work, everyone. Let's kind of come back together and just open up for a little discussion. How easy or difficult is it to truly live in the present moment? What keeps us from living more fully in the present moment and identifying the emotions we are experiencing? I'll go ahead and share what came up for me. And then, if anyone else has some stuff they'd like to pop in, I totally want to hear it. But, I noticed that, if I'm like really focusing on my breath, I can get present. And this is something I've noticed as I've practiced kind of meditation over the years. I mean, it used to be just so incredibly hard because there were so many thoughts. Just like the sitting still and breathing, I was constantly distracted by thoughts. And what I've noticed this time as I was kind of sitting here and breathing, there was a part of me that was, I feel good. I'm really excited about this training and being with you tonight. And, so they're generally speaking, the emotions are very positive. There's well-being. And then, I'm not judging them as wrong, but I, would notice some other thoughts trying to creep in the silence. And one of them was, just some underlying insecurities. Gosh, I really need to check my bank account. Did that, I noticed that was coming up, some of those kind of basic survival fears that I'm still working through. But those were trying to creep in. So, for me, what keeps me from living fully in the present moment is the fear programming. Like when I'm around a lot of media, there's just a lot of fear in this culture, and I'm pretty sensitive. So when I pick up on other people's thoughts or emotions or feelings, and then that can really pull me out of the present moment and what's really going on inside of me. So that's something that I work on. And this exercise was a good reminder. Would anyone else have a thought to pop into the conversation? Just take yourself off mute. Let us know what you're thinking.
This is Juanita. Can you hear me, Wendy?
We can hear you. Thank you, Juanita.
Okay, I would just say that for me, all the negative stuff, I'm not much with technology. I don't know how to unmute myself. I've never done webinar, that kind of thing. Those thoughts were coming up. But when I focused on my breathing, I became thankful that I made myself do this tonight, and I feel like I'm getting support for being brave and trying something new. So thank you. I think the thankfulness for me is a good way to get in the present moment.
Thank you, Juanita. Oh, it's great to support you in this next step, and moving out of our comfort zones and trying new things, new ways to connect. Thank you so much. All right. So, anyone else? If not, we'll go ahead and move to the 3 realms. Emotional intelligence is the blending of our cognitive, emotional, and behavioral functions. It's not enough to operate in only 1 or 2 of these realms. We must operate in all 3 realms in order to be fully present. Being fully present means paying attention to each situation and the feelings we are experiencing without resistance, without judgment, without analyzing, and without reacting. To manage our emotions is to realize the link between our thoughts, feelings, and actions. By checking in with ourselves, we begin to become more aware of the subtle changes that are happening at any given moment. This takes self-awareness, and self-awareness is what leads to self-management. Emotional intelligence is made up of several different domains that affect us internally and externally. So let's take a look at those now. So please pull out the worksheet called The 5 Domains of Emotional Intelligence. And this worksheet is comprised of 3 different pages. So, and I'll read through all of this. So Juanita, you can take the notes that that you are drawn to taking. Okay, so so read along with me if you are able as I review the 5 domains of emotional intelligence. After reviewing each domain, we will answer a question. So domain number 1, self-awareness. Self-awareness is knowing what you are feeling when you are feeling it. Developing self-awareness requires tuning into your true feelings. If you can recognize and evaluate your emotions, you can manage them. The ability to recognize an emotion as it happens is the key. The major elements of self-awareness are emotional awareness, your ability to recognize your own emotions and their effects, self-confidence, sureness about your self-worth and capabilities. The science of emotional intelligence tells us we must begin with our own self-awareness before we can tap into others' emotions. So let's take 1 minute to answer the following question. What emotions and their effects would you like to be more aware of as they are happening? And I'll repeat that again. What emotions and their effects would you like to be more aware of as they are happening? All right, and let's come back together. Domain number 2, self-regulation. Self-regulation is using your emotions to serve you and not get in your way. Self-regulation is also the ability to recover well from emotional stress. From self-awareness flows self-regulation. Self-regulation is handling your feelings to respond appropriately to an emotional situation. Without knowing what you're feeling, you can't manage those feelings. Regulation is less of a concern when dealing with positive emotions, but negative emotions such as anxiety, frustration, anger, rage, sadness, or panic require more regulation. Self-regulation involves self-control, managing disruptive impulses, maintaining standards of honesty and integrity, conscientiousness, taking responsibility for your own emotions. So now let's please take 1 minute to answer the following question. What emotions do you experience that feel most disruptive to you and your life that you would like to regulate? And I'll repeat that again. What emotions do you experience that feel most disruptive to you and your life that you would like to regulate? All right, and let's come back together. Domain number 3, motivation. Delaying gratification to pursue important goals and persevering when faced with setbacks or frustrations. Personal motivation requires clear goals and a positive attitude. We must ready ourselves in order to act on opportunities. Regardless of whether you have a predisposition to a positive or a negative attitude, you can, with effort and practice, think more positively. Remember, people with greater emotional intelligence experience hope and optimism more often than those with less emotional intelligence. Motivated people have less emotional stress. Optimism protects people from apathy and depression. It can also keep people from blaming failure on a personal trait that cannot be changed. If you catch negative thoughts as they occur, you can reframe them in more positive terms, which can help you achieve your goals. So now let's take 1 minute to answer the following question. What emotion motivates you to be your best? What emotion motivates you to be your best? All right, and let's start to come back together. Domain number 4, empathy. Empathy is sensing what others are feeling and seeking other perspectives. Empathy is the ability to recognize another's emotional state. The more skillful you are at discerning the feelings behind others' signals, the better you can control the signals you send. Empathy involves listening carefully, picking up on what people are truly saying, and responding accordingly. Stephen Covey describes empathy as listening for emotion, which in turn makes people feel understood. To be more effective when being empathetic, try these techniques. Recognize your own bias. People who are angry or in a bad mood notice another person's bad mood more readily than another person's good mood. Put aside your own feelings. When you have your own emotional agenda, it interferes with your ability to empathize with another person's feelings. Be attentive to cues. Tell people what you notice and ask for confirmation of what you're sensing. So now let's take 1 minute to answer the following question. To what degree are you able to recognize someone else's emotional state? To what degree are you able to recognize someone else's emotional state? All right, and coming back together. Domain number 5, social skills. Social skills is the ability to interact with others comfortably and cooperate during those interactions. Of all the domains, social skills is the easiest to recognize. Social skills allows us to connect with other people. Social awareness builds on the domain of self-regulation in that it allows us to access and express emotions in appropriate ways. Among the most useful social skills are influence, wielding effective persuasion tactics, communication, sending clear messages, change, initiating or managing change, conflict management, understanding, negotiating, and resolving disagreements, building bonds, nurturing instrumental relationships, collaboration and cooperation, working with others toward shared goals. So let's take 1 minute to answer the following question. What emotions support you socially, and which of your emotions get in the way for you socially? What emotions support you socially, and which of your emotions get in the way for you socially? And let's come back together. So, which of the 5 domains are internal domains, those that deal with ourselves, and which are external, those that deal with our interaction with others? Just make some notes about some of these questions. I'm going to make some notes too, and then we can chat a little bit. Which of the 5 domains are internal domains, those that deal with ourselves, and which are external, those that deal with our interaction with others? And why do we want to be aware of our emotions, both internally and externally? Why do we want to be aware of our emotions, both internally and externally? Let's make some more notes and then we'll come back together. Okay, great. So before we move on, I would just like to open it up for discussion. What did you discover? Which around the domains, the internal and external, and why do we want to be aware of our emotions internally and externally? Who would like to share their thoughts? Well, I'll share a little bit. So, it occurred to me when I was looking at self-awareness, I wrote, yeah, I would like to become more aware and appreciative of my joy as it is happening. So I think of self-awareness, that's, as an internal domain. Self-regulation is also, it's an inside job, it's an internal thing. I recognize the most disruptive emotion that I would like to regulate is my anxiety. And the interesting thing is I'm a pretty good chameleon, and I can kind of hide it when I have some anxiety going on. But that it is the most disruptive emotion that I would like to regulate, because it'll block me, it'll freeze me when I really could be taking a positive action. So also internal self-regulation, I think. And let's see, oh yeah. So then we also had motivation. What emotion motivates you to be your best? I think gratitude. So for me, that kind of like motivation is something that kind of, for me, crosses over both internal and external domains. It's like, it's an internal motivation, but I am also motivated by the energy of others. So, and working on shared projects. So, and when I have gratitude, that really motivates me to be my best. And then we had empathy, which I also think is sort of, it is an to me, I would categorize it as external in my experience, because I have to be tuned in externally to the person I'm talking to or the group I'm talking to. So that is external in its action and the way it shows up, but it's also an internal empathy. It's that recognition of how we are connected. And then the social skills, I would put like more, in that external domain, because it is about how we're socialized with others, how we're communicating. So why do we want to be aware of our emotions, both internally and externally? I think it's because that awareness gives you more choice. Then you're not being controlled by your emotions. You are using your feelings rather than having them use you. So those are just some of my thoughts. Anyone else like to unmute and pipe in? What showed up for you around working on this?
This is Holly. So thank you for coming up with the word gratitude for what motivates. Motivates me to be my best, because I was going, what does motivate me? And so that was good. It's like, that's a good word. Being grateful is and appreciative of things. really makes me want to give back to everyone. But one of the things that what I wanted to add in about, because I listed everything pretty much the way that you did, you know, as far as whether they were internal or external. But I wanted to talk about empathy because when the question is asked, you know, how good are you? To what degree are you able to recognize
Yeah.
else's emotions? And so this is where I have been overstepped this, I think, with others, where I've gotten so good at it. I was working for a while with Alzheimer's patients, and the head nurse of the facility where I was working asked me to come in just to tell me how good I was, because I could. I just knew what the Alzheimer's patients and the dementia patients, they didn't have to use their words because I could figure it out by what they were doing. And so I just want to put this out there where that when I've gotten too focused on, it's what I'm describing as codependency, I think, is that when I have, in that situation, it was a good thing. But sometimes in my relationships, where if I am being too empathetic and thinking about the other person even more than myself, and I have difficulty, I would rather be in pain than watch somebody else be in pain. I would rather be sad than have somebody else be sad. And so there's been some dishonesty that has come out and around with that. And then as far as, you know, the first question, what I'm working on is, Wendy, you touched on this a little bit, that when you're anxious, you can freeze. And so I was actually, I wrote down what emotions and their effects would you like to be more aware of as they're happening. And my understanding about when the lizard brain, if you get really startled or you get anxious, that you won't even be thinking like that other part of your brain. And I think that was what the chart was about. You don't even think, you can't even access that part of your brain. And what I tend to do is I freeze, and if I get really startled or scared if I'm around somebody that's expressing a lot of anger, that I just, I don't know how I feel at that point, and that part of my brain is ignited, and I am in flight and fright, and I will avoid confrontation with them by giving them whatever it is that they want, basically to appease them. And I'm working on, you know, the thing that you were doing with the breathing. I can tell you this is what I am working on right now, figuring out ways to calm my nervous system so that I can get down to how I'm feeling and my words without freezing. You know, it's like, how do you not freeze? That's the thing. How do you not freeze? So that's what I wanted to add.
Yes, thank you. And I think, you know, yeah, the breathing is the one, it's like the most transformational tool we have, and we have access to it, you know, 24/7. Yeah, and if we can remember to breathe and to consciously calm our body, that, you know, and it takes practice. So yeah, all of this is working to expand our emotional, our self-awareness, and that self-regulating, like breathing, really, I mean, that is a self-regulation practice in all of these 5 domains. Thank you, Holly. Anyone else have anything they'd like to share about this before we move forward? Awesome, thank you. In the next part of the webinar, I'll share with you some tactics to help you become more emotionally intelligent, both personally and socially. But first, I want to tell you about an exciting offer. It is Healing Your Heart Coaching. Heal from heartache, make peace with your past, ignite greater love, transform all of your relationships, especially the one with yourself. If you're tired of repeating the same patterns, living with heartache, or feeling like you can't move past the pain of loss, Healing Your Heart Coaching can help you heal and rediscover a life filled with love, helping you break the patterns, the behaviors of the past, and develop a deeper level of trust and intimacy with yourself and others. We'll show you how to truly transform every relationship in your life. This unparalleled program can truly show you what it means to fully love yourself and others without ever compromising yourself in the process. We'll carefully guide you to release your feelings of resentment, fear, blame, and anger so you can safely find the deep connection and love you've been craving. You'll also learn how to find the lessons and gifts in your past relationships so that you can make new choices aligned with what you most want. Navigate every relationship with ease, whether that's with a parent, child, boss, friend, partner, family member, or other. Don't wait another moment to heal and open up to the love and connection that leads to healthy relationships in every area of your life. Learning to tune into and honor your emotions and feelings is another important tool to use in this coaching process. True empowerment comes when you can feel free to express your entire emotional range in healthy and constructive ways. Often we get trapped in trying to suppress feelings that we've decided are bad, like anger, jealousy, or fear. When we're feeling these emotions, our energy drops and we notice a change in our vitality. Without healthy expression, these emotions can make us physically feel heavy, contracted, or constricted. Consider the emotions you see in a baby. 1 minute, the baby is gurgling happily and smiling, and the next minute, it might become upset and start crying. And then in the next moment, the baby could be screaming and angry. When we are born, we have access to the full range of our human emotions, from utter despair and rage all the way through total joy and bliss. Watching a baby, we can see how natural it is for a human to simply move through these different emotions. As we grow up, we're trained to start to judge our feelings. We start to label some of them as bad or good. Can you see that? But ultimately, our emotions are an important part of our being. Feelings tell us when we are stretching out of our comfort zone. Feelings sometimes act as important red flags to tell us there is something wrong. Rather than trying to deny or control our feelings in this coaching work, I'll encourage you to look at and understand your feelings so that you can build your emotional awareness. Ideally, we want to be able to use our feelings and not have our feelings use us. When we don't acknowledge and understand our feelings, they can use us. And when our feelings are using us, we react rather than respond. We have no power over our choices. When we allow ourselves to become present to and be with our feelings, we begin to take back our power from the programmed reactions of the past and make powerful choices about how we want to respond in the present. Often you may feel the need to rationalize or explain your feelings to others, or even to yourself. I feel betrayed because, or I feel sad because, but really no explanation is needed. Your feelings are your feelings. And the need to rationalize or explain them to others is driven by the ego, not the heart. It's important to realize that feelings come and they go, and that the full range of emotional expression is a birthright of all humans. In our sessions together, we'll be working to heighten your awareness of your emotions and to train you to use them as an internal compass to help you determine whether you are on the right path for you. If you make a decision that seems to make sense, but it leaves your stomach in knots, that's a sign that your choice is not fully in alignment with your heart's desire. Even a simple distinction like, does this make me feel expansive and lighter, or does it make me feel contracted and heavy, can be very valuable. How else might it be useful for you to have a greater emotional awareness? What's involved? When you enroll in the Healing Your Heart coaching program, you'll be invited to 13 live group coaching sessions with instructions on key concepts, sharing, and guided internal processes that allow you to safely connect with your emotions and pain. You'll be fully supported to release past behaviors and patterns so that you can truly heal. With recorded coaching sessions, worksheets, coaching assignments, and support and feedback from a certified integrative coach mentor each week, this program is about creating the love you desire. Make peace with past relationships and use them to grow. Free yourself of pain, anger, resentment, or other sabotaging emotions. Ignite greater sexuality, intimacy, and love in your personal relationships. Discover how to stop picking the same partner and make new choices. Understand how to trust yourself and put your desires first. Based on Debbie Ford's books, Spiritual Divorce and The Right Questions, Healing Your Heart coaching can help you truly open your heart. And even if that sounds scary, we promise to remain your partners in transformation throughout this process so that no matter what pain or emotions you experience, you'll have the confidence to get through to the other side. Begin to build healthy relationships in every area of your life today. Our next Healing Your Heart coaching group begins October 14th, 2019, and it runs through January 6th, 2020, taking the Christmas week off. And this program normally sells for $2,561. And of course, there is the participate or get your money back guarantee, because we want you to join in the coaching experience. You have been looking for this resource, and we do not want to delay you any longer. And in order for you to feel comfortable with your decision, we are going to take away any financial risk you may perceive. If, after participating fully, you do not agree that the process of coaching is worth every penny of the price you paid, just let us know anytime within the first 30 days of your coaching experience, and we will promptly make arrangements to refund your charge card for the entire amount. This program is about you taking positive action to develop a powerful foundation on which to simplify and manage your emotions and your life. If you participate fully, you'll get the kinds of results outlined. If you do not show up for the calls or follow through on the commitments we've made together, the only guarantee is that it will not work for you. But whether or not you take advantage of this powerful transformational coaching program, The team here at The Way of Truth want to offer a special thank you gift for your webinar participation today, whether you're with us live or you're participating via the replay. Congratulations! Your webinar participation gift today is a gentle introduction to Healing Your Heart coaching. Inside this gift, you receive an audio chapter overview, a holy moment from Spiritual Divorce by Debbie Ford. You'll receive one free Healing Your Heart introductory coaching session. That's a $197 value. And should you decide, or we decide, that this is the best program for you, you'll receive a coupon for 60% off Healing Your Heart coaching program. It's an intensive 13-week training, a $2,561 value. Now, you'll want to write this down because I neglected to get it onto the slide here. But to claim your gift, go to thewayofTruth.live/HAP. And I'll repeat that again. You don't need to put a www. You can just put in thewayofTruth.live/HAP to claim your gift. So go ahead and write that down and click that link, or put that link in your browser as soon as we're done with this webinar. And now let's return to our training, where we'll explore personal emotional intelligence tactics. Now's a good time to pull out the worksheet Personal Tactics. Let's see if I have it here. There it is, Personal Tactics. I'm going to give you about 2 minutes to read through the strategies presented and then highlight 1 or 2 tactics that will help you develop your own emotional intelligence. Even though all the tactics listed would be very helpful, please try to narrow down your selection to just 1 or 2. We are more likely to experience success when we focus on just 1 or 2 initiatives rather than trying to accomplish them all. So, and I'm going to go ahead and read this as well, so you can take notes, Juanita. So I know you don't have that in front of you. So, personal tactics. 1, become emotionally literate. Label your feelings rather than labeling people or situations. Use 3-word sentences beginning with I feel. For example, I feel impatient versus this is ridiculous. I feel hurt and bitter versus you are an insensitive jerk. I feel afraid versus you are driving like an idiot. 2, distinguish between thoughts and feelings. Now, thoughts are they're gonna sound like I feel like, and I feel as if. So a thought I might have about myself is I feel like you're not listening to me. I feel as if I'm invisible. And the feelings are going to sound like I feel followed by a feeling word. I feel unworthy. I feel sick to my, I feel depressed. I feel joyful. I feel grateful. So distinguishing between thoughts and feelings. 3, take more responsibility for your feelings. I feel jealous versus you are making me jealous, right? If we're responsible, this is what I feel. I feel jealous versus you are making me jealous. Analyze your own feelings rather than the action or motives of other people. And let your feelings help you identify your unmet needs. If I feel jealous, I have an unmet emotional need for attention. So maybe I want to give myself that attention to, but that feeling of jealousy or envy might help me recognize an unmet emotional need that I could do something about. 4, use your feelings to help make decisions. How will I feel if I do this? How will I feel if I don't? How do I feel right now about this? What would help me feel better? Ask others, how do you feel? And what would help you feel better? 5, feel energized, not angry or frustrated. Use the emotions of anger or frustration to feel energized and take productive action. For example, when you feel frustrated or angry, explore your options. You can say, I feel frustrated right now. How can I do this differently? So now take another minute or two to write on your worksheet why you feel implementing that tactic or two would benefit you. Great. You know, while we are developing our personal tactics, we must think about our social tactics as well. Whereas personal tactics are a look inward, social tactics look outward at how we interact with others. So now's a good time to pull out your worksheet on social tactics. And I'm going to give you 2 minutes to read through the strategies presented and highlight 1 or 2 tactics that will help you to develop your emotional intelligence. And again, remember that although you may feel that all the tactics listed could be helpful, please narrow down your selection to just 1 or 2 tactics. Social tactics. Number 1. Use feelings to set and achieve goals. Set feeling goals. Think about how you want to feel or how you want others to feel. Your family, your friends, your coworkers, your acquaintances. You know, for example, like if you're going in for a job interview, how do you want to feel? You can set a feeling goal for yourself. I want to feel confident. I want to feel grounded. I want to feel secure and aware so I can answer questions well. I want, how do I want them to feel? I want them to feel confident in me. I want them to feel, you know, a sense of wanting to work with, of confidence, yes. And you can also get feedback and track your progress towards your feeling goals by periodically measuring your feelings and other feelings on a scale from 1 to 10. Holly knows this. In the Healing Your Heart coaching program, one of the things we do every time we meet is we check in about our internal flame, and we grade it on a scale of 1 to 10. So, and that is a tracking progress. That is kind of a self-regulating practice. 2, validate other people's feelings. Show empathy, understanding, and acceptance of other people's feelings. 3, use feelings to show respect for others. How will you feel if I do this? How will you feel if I don't? And then listen and take their feelings into consideration. 4, Don't advise, command, control, criticize, judge, or lecture others. Instead, just listen with empathy and non-judgment. And 5, avoid people who invalidate you. While this is not always possible, at least try to spend less time with them, or try not to let them have psychological power over you. So now go ahead and take one more minute to write on your worksheet why you think implementing that 1 or 2 tactics would benefit you. Great. So let's end our exploration on emotional intelligence by clarifying the learning that has happened for you during this webinar. What did you learn? I'd like to ask you to offer a short laser phrase on what you have learned. And who would like to volunteer to start the process? Just unmute yourself and share a short laser phrase on what you've learned in our webinar today. I'll share. I learned things or relearned things about the brain and how I'm physically built, and the open loop system that I, it is very empowering to remember when I'm doing my self-regulating practices, my self-awareness and self-regulating, that I got to work with the system. I got to work with my hardware as well as my software. So that's my short laser phrase. Who else has something they'd like to share, something that they learned today?
Okay, this is Holly. I said the same thing that you did, basically. The brain is the key. Gotta really pay attention to the brain. And then my feelings are correct and they're mine. So the more educated I am about them and how it all works, the better I'll function.
Yeah, they're perfectly designed for you. They are your roadmap, paying it, really listening to, being with, honoring your feelings. And who else would like to share? Juanita or Shelley, is there anything that popped out for you, a gem, an insight?
This is Juanita, and I thought I was reminded that something that I already know, but just forget from time to time. Like if you just stop and breathe. Oh yeah, I remember this. So just stop to breathe and remembering to be grateful. And I also want to thank Holly for something she said just really was very important to me, and hearing others where they are is a good way to learn. So thank you, Holly. And Thank you, Wendy. This is wonderful.
Thank you, Juanita. Shelley, any parting words?
Just the whole self-awareness and self-regulation thing. I mean, it is amazing how much better I notice my life going when I'm actually paying attention and not being self-conscious, but being just self-aware. Like, how am I feeling about this, rather than just acting out of habit or programming like I would have in the past, because that never turned out good for me.
Thank you, everyone. I'd like to leave you with the following quote. Men are not disturbed by things, but by the view they take of them. That was Epictetus who said that. So I want to thank you all so much for your participation today. I appreciate you all for joining me and hope you found this information valuable. Before we go, I just want to reiterate my offer for you. The link that you want to write down and go to is thewayoftruth.live/HAP to claim that participation gift, which is really good. I mean, if I do say so myself, I mean, the audio chapter, it's, you know, it's from Spiritual Divorce. I mean, it is one of Debbie Ford's best-selling. I mean, it really, it's on the shelves of marriage counselors and lawyers everywhere. And I actually narrated it, so you have the voice to read this chapter for you. And you also receive one free Healing Your Heart introductory coaching session with me, whether or not you sign up. It's really powerful coaching session. And if you do want to sign up, if you do it by October 12th, you can receive a 60% off Healing Your Heart coaching program. But I'm also going to say that, you know, I'm flexible. I work with people. I have some very affordable coaching memberships that you can sign up for. And, you know, for a limited time, this coaching program could be free with that membership. I'm always willing to negotiate, especially if it's something that you're really ready for, that you're really ready to put the work in. I want to support that transformation. So that's it. Go to thewayoftruth.live/HAP. Thank you so much, everyone. Have a great night. And hope to be talking with you all very soon. And bye for now.